Hello, everyone. Nika here with your daily neuro nugget. It is Thursday. It's Thursday, guys. Hey, Nadine. Hey, Boo. How's it going, girlfriend? Welcome, everyone in the chat. Remember to remain respectful in the chat, right? We're all kind of grown here. We're all grown. And as you guys know, it's my birthday. It's my birthday week because I don't want to be too specific because people out there are a little weird sometimes. Before we get started, I did want to mention that you guys have been so kind with your birthday donations. Obviously, I personally would not be able to keep the money for my birthday. I want to donate that money to a homeless uh shelter in the area. We're at $50. I know, I'm a dreamer. It would be so cool to raise $500 and be able to donate that money to a homeless shelter, especially because Chicago is really cold. There's so many things that people need at this time of year: coats, clothing, feminine products, all that stuff. So that's my goal for my birthday. So anything you guys donate from now uh through the end of the month will be going to the homeless shelter. We are at $50. So thank you guys. Thank you guys for your cash apps, your super chats, everything. We're at $50. So thank you guys to all who have donated to make my birthday wish come true. That being said, we're going to get right into it because yesterday I did not talk fast enough. And then it was like almost 4 and I almost didn't make it to my other job. So sorry, I'm wearing scrubs because I'm getting ready to go work soon. We're going to get right into it. There are so many documents, guys, 2,300 plus pages, even more than that, of unsealed documents. I've been trying my very best to keep up with everything to keep you guys updated because every time that something is unsealed, we have more questions. Okay, that should be a red flag in my opinion. Every time a document is unsealed, we have more questions instead of having more answers. Big red flag. Hey Brian. Hey Suds 26. Hey Deborah from Australia. Hey Rick, thank you for the kind comment. Suds is also a dreamer, right? Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm glad you made it. Now let's talk about the unsealed evidence log. Because why in the world was evidence still tested in June of 2025 in the IDAHO4 case? When you guys pull up the unsealed evidence log, you will see what I'm talking about. This unsealed evidence log is showing that items were still being tested in June 2025 for the IDAHO4 case, for the trial that was supposed to happen. Isn't that a little bit weird? June 2025. Remember, this case took place back in November 13th, 2022. The fact that we now have this unsealed evidence log showing that things were still processing DNA evidence back in June 2024. There's June 21st, 2024. Then they did some testing in 9/11/2024, and then June 4th, 2025. What in the world? What in the world? Why are they waiting 2.5 years to test evidence? That's shortly before Brian KOHBERGER took that plea deal. In September 2024, they were still looking at the latent prints. Left at the IDAHO4 crime scene. And what's crazy is that's not all. There were 4 buccal swabs from unknown males. Of course, to this day, we don't have access to that information. To this day, everything regarding the 4 male buccal swabs, it's still redacted. Welcome, Bonnie. I'm glad you caught the live. Hello, Holly. Hey, Jim. Because, of course, it's redacted. Of course. But that's not everything. So they're looking at the latent prints. They're looking at the buccal swabs. And this was in September 2024. when Mr. Brian Christopher Kohlberger had already been sitting in prison for a while, right? And we should have already had the trial at that time. Hey, Stephen, if you keep scrolling and digging deep into this report, it goes on to June of 2025. What in the world were they looking for in June 2025 in terms of DNA, biological DNA, in June of 2025, including a latent print? Isn't that a little bit concerning? Isn't that a little bit concerning? It should be. Why are you just now starting to test things in June 2025? It's in their own lab reports, listed right there, plain as day, latent prints, and they're listed by item number, not names, right? They're listed by number. But if you continue to scroll, there are still other bits of unclear information as to why they would be testing any sort of print, any sort of biological in June 2025. But they also acknowledge that the normal routine analysis has the potential to destroy any biological evidence. How how is that something that we can put in writing and that people can go to sleep at night? It literally says in this report that some of the preliminary testing can destroy evidence. Are they referring to the blue stain? We've talked about the blue stain here before, right? Right? We've talked about the blue stain and how that was capable of destroying evidence. Is that what they're referring to here? It literally says it may destroy any biological evidence that may be present on the submitted item, as well as remove the ability to request biology and or DNA screening at a later date. This was requested June 4th, 2025 by the investigating officer Dustin Blaker. This is for those of you following along on the documents, it's M2022 TAC 4843 on the Idaho State Police report. What in the world is going on? What in the world is going on that they're barely testing items, requesting information, requesting biological DNA 2.5 fucking years later, bro? 2.5 years later. That's not sitting well with me at the moment. What were they doing? Who are they testing this on? And why don't we have the identity of this individual, right? I personally wonder if this was finally tested, or if this was a service request. They were requesting for something to be tested. I have an idea. I have a feeling that this was something that Ann Taylor and the defense team requested to be tested, right? Because if Ann Taylor is having to go through however many thousands and thousands and thousands of pages and gigabytes and all this information, and we know that it was handed to her in a very uncoordinated fashion, everything was out of order, everything was probably given to her in that way so that she would, in my opinion, have a more difficult time going through whatever she needed to get through. And when she finally got to that, possibly in June 2025, and she sees, holy shit, there's a latent print here that has yet to be tested. Maybe we should get that tested. Maybe we should get that tested. Did it ever get tested? This was a request in June 2025. That's scary to me because even if you have an amazing team, even if your client may be innocent or not, the fact that there are prints out there that were not tested, that basically the detectives, the FBI investigators said, fuck that print, we're not testing it, it doesn't matter. And that somebody finally requested it 2.5 years later is very concerning. And it should scare you, babe. It should scare you because again, this could be any of us in this situation. One would assume, I would assume that if there's prints all over a quadruple homicide, that would be the first thing to get tested, that I wouldn't have to put in a request as a defense attorney 2.5 years later to get the shit tested. But of course, if the cops, if law enforcement is trying to close a case, they're trying to build a very specific narrative, then you're only going to test what you want. You're only going to test what suits you. So I think that's exactly what happened here. That being said, these are my opinions, these are my theories, and these videos are for entertainment purposes only. That's insane to me. Years later, I think that it was Ann Taylor and the defense team trying to finally get this identity of this latent print that was never tested revealed when she finally got through whatever documents she needed to get through. Can you imagine? You've been trying to rescue, allegedly help Mr. Koberger, protect your client, and then 2.5 years later, you're like, oh shit, we need this tested. Was it actually ever tested? Was this latent print ever tested? Because remember, it took Ann Taylor and the defense team 2+ years just to get discovery. Okay. When we go through the idaho.gov, Idaho versus Kohlberger legal documents, half of the documents there are Ann Taylor and the defense team requesting discovery, permission to request discovery, permission to request discovery. It's like, why is the state having to hide discovery? Why is Ann Taylor and the defense team having to hide discovery? This is not something that is typical. Not 20 something, not requesting discovery 20 something times. That's not typical. And in the early days, we heard the state said they had a close case. This was done and over with. They have their guy. But if you actually have your guy and you are so positive that this is your guy, you're not going to try to hide discovery for 2 years, 2.5 years, right? Obviously. Some of the discovery finally came through at the very end after Anne requested it 20 plus something times, right? I also wanted to go through some of the unsealed phone logs with the ISP lab manager mentioning this mystery perp in the IDAHO4 case. The mystery glove found early on in the IDAHO4 case, which may have had a latent print and also some blood on it, right? And I'm pulling up this document here titled section latent print examinations. It's chilling. It's chilling. This document is dated 11/25/2022. This was typed up by Riley Nolan, the lab manager, the forensic lab manager, ISP lab manager. And this is a conversation that she's having with Jeffrey Talbot, right? They had information from this glove and a suspect early on in the case. These unsealed phone logs between Riley Nowlin and forensic detective Jeffrey Talbot tell us a story about their suspect at the very beginning of the case. And it states that on November 25th, 2022, Riley is talking to Jeffrey, and it states, spoke about submitting a reference sample from a possible suspect, blank, and blood swabs from blank. blank, and 2 swabs from the house. I agreed to these items. I was unable to access the DNA tracker. Their evidence person, Tim S., stated he could no longer access Prelog and could not prelog the items. They have a captain heading down anyway and want to send the items. I said I did not have anyone in office who could assist with the prelog, so we would take them as unlogged and get them taken in on Monday. If they are able to prelog, please do so. If not, we will enter them manually. He agreed these items did not need to be rushed and would be worked in our normal queue. You're not going to rush DNA? You're not going to rush a glove with latent prints and red fluid, blood. You're not gonna rush that. I thought this was a big deal. Rylene, Jeffrey, ISP lab managers and detectives here. I thought this was a big deal. I thought you guys wanted to get to the bottom of this. I thought that this was a quadruple homicide and you were trying to get justice. Hey, Emily. Hey, Foxtrot. Thank you for the kind comment. I thought you guys were trying to get justice. Interesting. Wouldn't you rush this? A glove? A bloody glove? Interesting. Interesting. And this is in reference to the glove that was found in the parking lot, which apparently had blood on it, right? When we follow this unsealed phone log, of course, it's very lengthy, right? So I'm only giving you guys the what I think is the most important. I'm trying to summarize it for you as best as I can. Um, Here's another conversation between Rylene and Jeff Talbot, same people, but this is dated 11/28/2022. Called to discuss items received. I asked about the glove as we had not discussed it. He stated the case agent from Moscow PD collected the item from the parking area of the house and it had blood on the glove. I asked if no blood on the glove. Do they think that it's related? And do we need to collect where? He said they will cross that bridge when they get to it. He does not think the glove will be suitable for latents. I asked about the 2 items labeled blood swab, and there is no information on the packaging about where they are from. Again, this, in my opinion, just shows how botched the entire investigation is. How in the world are we supposed to just believe everything that is coming from ISP, from Jeffrey Talbot, from the ISP lab manager Rylene? How are we supposed to believe anything coming out of Moscow when they're picking up gloves from a parking lot, having bloody swabs, sending them to wherever things are not logged? There's no chain of custody. Things were logged multiple days post crime, and not only that, but we don't even know where these swabs are from. Rylene is literally telling the detective Jeff that they don't know. They don't know about the 2 items that are labeled blood swabs. There's no information on the packaging. He said those are from blank. I told him we would be returning the blank. He agreed to this and said it could be shipped. Weird. I don't know. This is just showing me this is just showing me that they didn't do what they were supposed to do. Again. Now, labeling things, we're obviously not sure who this suspect is because again, in these unsealed phone logs, the name is redacted. But it does show us what? That they had a suspect in the very beginning. Within a week, within days of the Idaho 4, they had a suspect. And we know that they did not have the name of Brian Kohlberger until much later, December, allegedly. So, who was it that they were focused on? Who was it that they believed this bloody glove that was found in the parking lot belonged to? It wasn't Brian Kohlberger. I'm going to tell you that right now. Again, they said they didn't have his name until December. So then it wasn't Brian. Who was it? And why did they pivot? It wasn't Brian Kohlberger. That's all I know. Who was it? Who was it? And if it wasn't Brian Kohlberger and they had somebody else in their sights, why did they pivot so drastically? It's very strange. Very strange. The more I go through these unsealed evidence logs, phone logs, again, there's thousands of pages I still have to go through. So bear with me. This is going to be a very short video. I only wanted to cover these two for today. I'm going to go and do some more reading and skimming of the documents because there's a lot we have to get through, guys. It's obnoxious that, again, every time we have unsealed logs, we just have more questions. No answers, more questions. And again, it's looking like they had a suspect days after the Idaho 4 that was not Brian Kohlberger. So who was it? I have an idea, but I want you guys to share your thoughts with me. So thank you guys for joining me in today's live. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. Again, if you guys have donated to the Cash App or the Super Chats, just know that that's money that will be going to my favorite shelter, homeless shelter in the Chicago area. Because that's my birthday wish. I want to raise money to donate to a shelter. So thank you guys. I think we're at $50 now, 50 or 60, something like that. So thank you guys. Have a wonderful night. See you guys soon. Bye-bye. Stay safe. Don't go to Moscow.